Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Gosztola, and might have lost the Facebook live stream, so we'll lose those viewers. But hey, I'm here. Hello everyone. I'm Kevin Gosztola, the managing editor for Shadowproof, the curator of the Dissenter newsletter. And as you all are joining the stream, thank you for being here. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe button, do all those things that we ask of people who are following these broadcasts that independent journalists do, like myself, support independent media. And we're going to cover the alleged WikiLeaks source, Joshua Schulte's trial, discuss it. He's being retried. He's being retried in New York. And so we'll be covering that here. Of course, tomorrow I'll be live in the morning. We expect huge news in the sense that it'll formalize the UK government's authorization of the extradition request. We're expecting that Home Secretary Priti Patel will authorize the extradition request uh, from the United States, say that it's a fair extradition request. Of course, we disagree, but that she will sign off on it and it will go back to the district court. And so that will be a big news for us to cover, and we will be here at the my YouTube channel. I'll have an update after that happens. I'll be able to dig into that and discuss that with everyone so that you can get all the details, see all the reaction, know what the Assange legal team is going to be doing about it, what kind of an appeal they'll be mounting afterwards. But again, as I said at the beginning, we have this trial happening as well for this alleged WikiLeaks source who's being retried, who was already there was a mistrial that happened back in 2020, I believe. Yeah. And so now, as far as things are going, the Justice Department has pressed on with insisting that Joshua Schulte must be the source for WikiLeaks. But before I go any further, we've got some people who are joining the stream. Again, hit the like button, subscribe, share this, let people know that you're watching and you're interested. This is happening on the Shadowproof YouTube channel. And also, I want to say, if you're a subscriber of the Dissenter newsletter, thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not, if you go to thedissenter.org, you can get updates, regular reports on whistleblower stories. I'm also writing a book. I have in the process of finalizing it, and it will be published in early 2023 on Julian Assange's case. It's called Guilty of Journalism, the political case against Julian Assange, coming out from Censored Press and Seven Stories Press, who have been extremely good partners in putting together that book. And so without wasting any more time, let's get right to this. I'm not going to go too long with this stream. I know everyone has a lot of different content that they could consume. So let's be mindful of the fact that there are other people out there, and I won't take too much longer. So here we go. This is Joshua Schulte. Let's do it like this. And here is a courthouse sketch. Pulled this from Courthouse News. And he is on trial. He comes from this division of the CIA called the Operations Support Branch. And the Justice Department has accused him of being a source of the Vault 7 materials, which were published by WikiLeaks in 2017. These were highly sensitive files. They revealed and exposed some of the methods, many of the methods that the CIA has to engage in offensive hacking. And so I'll get to this story that was published by the New Yorker ahead of the second trial. It's called The Surreal Case of a CIA Hacker's Revenge. This I will say takes some license and suggests that what was done in releasing the documents was likely a revenge against the CIA. And so that New Yorker's looking at some of the available information and drawing a conclusion. And but there's many details in there based on sources that were interviewed. And the journalist on it was Patrick. Uh, and Patrick, let's see, his full name is Patrick Radden-Keefe. I'm not familiar with Patrick's work, but this is seems like a very well-informed article. There's some parts of it that I would quibble with, mainly the boost that he gives and the credence that he gives to the idea that WikiLeaks was involved with foreign intelligence, and that's why we had the Clinton campaign emails. At this moment, if that's what you're printing in your article, I don't think that that's based in truth. But that being said, this is a very detailed article about Joshua Schulte and where he comes from and the division he worked in and some of what happened while he was employed at the CIA. And it goes into detail describing things like the different malware codes that he was working on. It details the response of the CIA and FBI to the leak. It goes into the investigation. It references some of Joshua Schulte's background, some of the people who knew him from school, what he was like. There's more to this case, which I'll leave for another day, because he's got more charges in addition to the ones that are related to the release of Vault 7 materials. He was accused of child pornography charges that he's not been, as far as I know, put on trial for yet. But there are those allegations as well that are out there. So we'll stick to the Vault 7 materials because that's what we do over at this channel, covering whistleblowers and the leaks and the war on WikiLeaks as well. And the Vault 7 materials have a big place in the war on WikiLeaks. It is a catalyst for charging Julian Assange. It inflames and upsets CIA Director Mike Pompeo. It has a lot to do with why CIA Director Mike Pompeo comes out and is aggressively calling out Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and acting like they are serving the Russian government and saying that they're propagandists. And it's why there's a disruption campaign that becomes authorized. He's embarrassed that these files, many files, are lost and are now being shared widely by WikiLeaks. And we know that because of the Yahoo News report that we have on the secret war plans to plot to kill or poison Julian Assange. And there were other things that were discussed. So we know that this is a big deal for the CIA. They want to find somebody that they can pin this leak on. They're not happy if they don't find somebody who they can put in prison for this. And you know, for multiple years now, Joshua Schulte has been in prison, and he's been in harsh conditions. He's been in special administrative measures, which we'll get to. Those are conditions that Julian Assange could be held under too. He's been accused of violating the Espionage Act, Joshua Schulte, just like Julian Assange. So we'll go back to the article that we were discussing here. And so even as the FBI investigators pinpointed Schulte as the prime suspect, their work was frustrated by the pageantry of overclassification. I included this because this speaks to what happens in security agencies. So I wanted to share this part. This is actually rather incredible. Even as FBI investigators pinpointed Schulte as the prime suspect, their work was frustrated by the pageantry of overclassification. WikiLeaks had posted the Vault 7 tools on the web where anyone could see them, but officially, the CIA and the FBI maintained that the documents remained classified. This comes from the New Yorker report that we've been talking about. And this is exactly what they did when WikiLeaks published the State Department cables and they published the war logs to pretend that they're still classified. Stick your head in the sand. People who work in government agencies have to be ignorant. They can't really know the truth about their government. They can only know what their government wants them to know, the employees in there. So the people who are supposed to be informed are actually uninformed about the agencies in which they're working. So no, stick your head in the sand. And here they talk about how the investigators have to get behind this barrier. And so what's going on here is that as a result, only the investigators who held the necessary security clearances were permitted even to access WikiLeaks to see what had been stolen. FBI officials were so nervous about visiting the website using bureau computers or internet connections, thereby possibly exposing their own networks to a cyber intrusion, that they dispatched an agent to purchase a new laptop and visit the website from the safety of a Starbucks. So this is crazy. This is what it's like to live in a national security state. These are people who are so paranoid about what can happen that they go to such great lengths to pretend like this kind of a measure is necessary in order for them to do their jobs. And so then we have some more here about getting the warrant for Schulte. We get some more insight into what was uncovered by investigators in this New Yorker report. When FBI agents obtained a warrant for Schulte's search history from Google, they discovered that starting in August 2016, when he was preparing to leave the CIA, he had conducted 39 searches related to WikiLeaks. In the hours after WikiLeaks posted Vault 7, he searched for FBI, and he read articles with such titles as FBI joins CIA in hunt for leaker. Now, I will just point out that I'm not entirely sure why you would search for FBI if you knew that the Vault 7 materials came from the CIA, or why FBI would necessarily be a red flag. If you wanted to check on your work and you wanted to see how far and wide it had gone, and you were being obvious in your internet searches, if that's what the agents are trying to point to here through these Google searches, then you put CIA in the search bar. You might actually look for some of these agencies. So, but again, they're piecing together this circumstantial evidence, and they're not able to prove what they want to prove. So, as the New Yorker report says, for a guy who was a supposed expert in information warfare, Schulte seemed shockingly sloppy when it came to his own operational security. Even so, the FBI hadn't found a smoking gun. It had amassed circumstantial evidence tying Schulte to the Vault 7 leak, but it hadn't found any record of him transmitting data to WikiLeaks, or indeed any proof that the secret files had ever been in his possession. And there's the critical point. And the fact is that carried over to the trial and played a part in the fact that it was deadlocked, ended in a mistrial, and the jury did not convict Joshua Schulte of being the source. So that's why in this, I put in the headline of this video very clearly, this is the alleged WikiLeaks source. Sometimes when I've covered these people who are prosecuted for providing documents to WikiLeaks, you want to say that that's a good thing. And they stand behind it. They come forward. It's not alleged. We can see it. The evidence is there. And it's to their credit that they gave these materials to WikiLeaks. But Joshua Schulte maintains that he's not the source. His attorney has helped him get past a first trial. The jury was not convinced. The government has not produced very clear, coherent information that can convince a jury that he is guilty. We'll see what they have now for a second trial, but it's hard to believe they would come up with anything new other than being able to maybe assassinate and go after his character a bit more. But be clear here, he's not on trial for the child pornography charges. So they can't use that to try and prove that he is the Vault 7 leaker. So they can't try anything like that, as far as I can tell. And so now you've got the fact that this second trial will be unfolding with the same circumstantial evidence once again, which is kind of alarming. I mean, if this is what you can do, if they were to end in a mistrial in Julian Assange's case, does that mean that Julian Assange can be kept in a prison cell or jail cell and then they'll get a second try? Yeah, actually, it does mean that. It does mean if they're not successful, that prosecutors here in the United States have ways to keep this going. They could drop the charges against Julian Assange and just bring him to trial on a new set of charges without ever setting him free. And at least the prosecutors know that if they're not able to convict Joshua Schulte on these charges related to WikiLeaks, that they'll still be able to probably nail him for the child porn charges. So there's also that lying in the background. So we get also in this a discussion of the lack of security. And this is something that's constant in a lot of these leak prosecutions. You see agencies unwilling to take responsibility for what they did to leave themselves vulnerable. And if in fact, you can't really tell who's the person who was responsible. That was the case in Jeffrey Sterling's prosecution. He maintains he's not the source for these disclosures related to Iran and the way that they were deploying these fake nuclear weapons blueprints. The real outrage, according to this New Yorker feature, is that the crucial CIA computer network, DevLAN, had been unprotected. Hundreds of people had access to DevLAN, including not just CIA employees, but contractors. Something like over 2 or 3 million people, if not 5 million people, have security clearances in the US government. The CIA's hackers appear to have disregarded even the kinds of elementary information security protocols that any civilian worker bee can recite from mandatory corporate training. Coders exchanged passwords with one another, and they sometimes shared sensitive details on Post-it notes. They used passwords that were laughably weak, including 123 ABC lowercase def, a classified damage assessment conducted by the CIA after the Vault 7 exposure concluded that security procedures had indeed been woefully lax, that the agency's hackers prioritized building cyber weapons at the expense of securing their own systems. And all right, so bad security, circumstantial evidence. But, we found child porn on his hard drives. So if all fails, if we waste all government resources and the public's time trying to vilify this guy and get him as the leaker source for WikiLeaks, we always have this to fall back on, and nobody's going to defend him for any of that. Certainly, I'm not going to defend anyone who has that kind of stuff in their possession. So you got me. So we've got, want to point your attention to Matthew Lee over at Inner City Press. This is an account you can follow on Twitter. I'm not there in New York. I'm not able to be there in New York, but he's there and he's doing incredible work covering this trial daily, posting live updates the way that I've done live updates covering Julian Assange's case. And so let's... a couple of the updates that he gave recently are that the FBI surveilled Schulte's family vacation in San Diego, and that this was something the jury was able to hear about. And then that the FBI had people bump, hey, what just happened to run into Schulte at a bachelor party. And they also just happened to bring up WikiLeaks, and, maybe they had some recording devices on them as well. And maybe they were able to collect some of those recordings and surreptitiously catch him saying some things about WikiLeaks that might have been useful for that matter. They might have those on record. And so Schulte asked, did the FBI surveil my mother and me going to Starbucks? And they said yes. And the jury was apparently interested, and as they should be. What are these tactics for going after this alleged WikiLeaks source. All right, so I'll take that down for the moment and just say that Matthew Lee at Inner City Press, the handle is at Inner City Press. That's an account that you can follow to get really good updates. Ivanchek is an FBI agent who was involved in interrogating Joshua Schulte. He had taken the stand. There's been cross-examination of him, so the prosecutors are putting forward their case, and then you had Ivanchek being cross-examined by Schulte, doing some more to challenge him. And you look at some of the lines of questioning. He's tried, although he hasn't really been allowed to, but to take it into some different directions so that he can show essentially the inconsistencies and the hypocrisy of coming after him, the lack of security, the way in which even Ivanchek was allegedly careless as an FBI agent with classified information, things of that nature that just get at some of these core issues that are fundamentally applied unfairly. Some people are expected to abide by standards. Others get away with following these rules because they're elites in high places and they don't have to follow those rules. And you know it if you've been following this. You know cases. You know cases like Reality Winner, cases like Daniel Hale, people prosecuted the Espionage Act, and then you know the names like David Petraeus or Leon Panetta, people who get to just blab and say whatever they want. They can get their biographer to write a hagiography or some kind of a fawning portrait of them. They can sleep with them and have affairs and get away with sharing highly classified information from their meetings with presidents. Or, they can go to private events with movie producers for Zero Dark 30 and talk about the Osama bin Laden raid and share all kinds of sensitive information that if the people who actually were in that raid went and did an interview and talked about it, they're going to be prosecuted and put on trial. So that's how unfair it is. And that's always at issue in these cases. And so, it's pointed out that in this first trial back in 2020, there was a really good attorney who has agreed to be a standby counsel. So let me backtrack. Something that I've left out, maybe I'm sort of burying the lead here, is that Joshua Schulte is representing himself as his own counsel, but he also has a standby counsel who is present. Her name is Sabrina Schroff, and she's there. And, as they try things and he needs help with certain legal procedures, she's agreed to be there in order to help him navigate his way through the proceedings. And they can exchange Post-it notes, but they can also take breaks, and he can consult her for some help. So, in any case, Schulte basically during his first trial, there were 10 charges that he faced, as the New Yorker article lays out. The proceedings had a lot of secrecy. The witnesses that came forward to testify often did so with pseudonyms. That's probably the case for this trial. Some of the precautions were that they'd have assumed names, even if they weren't covert operatives. And this article talks about Sabrina Schroff being a really good public defender. She's a public defender, and how they didn't have any ability to cross-examine the classification authority. So it's hard to challenge what the government designates as secret versus top secret. Schroff did have a top secret security clearance. And it goes on to say that defense attorneys receive the names of prosecution witnesses often in advance. They can research their backgrounds and prepare for cross-examination. But they were actually prohibited during the first trial from performing Google searches that might in any way link these individuals to the CIA. Because some witnesses had common names and Schroff and her team could not add the letters CIA to their search terms, it was occasionally impossible to gather any information. This is wild. How do you put that kind of a constraint on people? How do you have fairness in a trial if you can't do the kind of discovery that has to be done to prepare your defense? You're basically saying that they can't do that. I could do that. I mean, if I had those names and somehow they were in my possession, I'd be able to do that search. How's anybody going to stop me from doing those searches? It's absurd. So, um, the reason why they were able to spare Joshua Schulte earlier on was because they presented him as somebody who was antagonistic to management. He did have problems. You can read about him in the New Yorker feature with other people who worked at the CIA. He did challenge them. He sought a restraining order. That's what this report says, in a Virginia state court against a coworker who was a bit of a rival, a bit of a thorn, someone he had picked on, who decided he was going to fight back. And then they ended up going at each other, had a rivalry that was pretty nasty. And, but she said, being a difficult employee does not make you a criminal. That's what Schroff said. And so in presenting that information, there were things that she was pretty good at challenging in the trial that was successful. They point out that in the trial, there was an exchange in which a senior official named Sean Roche said that the Vault 7 publication was a digital Pearl Harbor. And so Schroff asked, how many people died in Pearl Harbor? And Roche said more than 3,000. And then Schroff asked, how many people died as a result of Vault 7? And he said, I don't have an answer to that, which is ridiculous. So she said, in fact, none. Correct? And that's correct. There are no people who have died because of the Vault 7 materials. There are a lot of people who died from Pearl Harbor. But, this is a thing. It's cultural in national security agencies and throughout our political establishment to just equate things to Pearl Harbor when, in fact, that really means something. There are a lot of people who died on Pearl Harbor. It's not a digital Pearl Harbor, because it's not like something happened digitally with cyber warfare and thousands of people died, which could happen. Something like that could take place given the way that technology has advanced and some of the hacking capabilities. It's possible that some kind of hacking event could take place that resulted in mass casualty event. But this was not one of those times. And Joshua Schulte, even if he was the source, is not responsible for a digital Pearl Harbor. Whoever released the Vault 7 materials did not cause a digital Pearl Harbor. That is ridiculous. So, and I love this. The New Yorker writes, Roche was probably being hyperbolic. And there's no probably. Was hyperbolic. Was terribly hyperbolic. And so I'll wind this down by pointing out that Joshua Schulte is being held and has been held in some very strict conditions that are worth discussing. There's an article by whistleblower, CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou over at Consortium News, but I also covered this when it came out, this filing back in January of 2021 about the Metropolitan Correctional Center, New York, and the way in which Joshua Schulte is kept in these conditions. He's held there in special administrative measures, and he's kept in what he alleges are barbaric conditions that are, just unsuitable for any human to be kept in. And this has been the case for a while. But he wrote a handwritten letter first back in 2018 that addressed his pretrial detention. And so here is he wrote this letter to well, first, I'm a little confused here because let me backtrack. I want to make sure everybody understands that the government has actually challenged this idea that they are doing anything vile to Josh in the way that he's kept in prison. But all right, so he faces these special administrative measures. And the complaint that was written was describing this Metropolitan Correctional Center, which I'll put this back on the screen. This is the center. It's been shut down. Everyone should know that the MCC New York is also where Jeffrey Epstein was found dead. And there's multiple other problems with the facility, so the Justice Department ordered it to be shut down. And they're keeping Joshua Schulte there because he's had a pending trial. He was a defendant with a pending trial. They wouldn't move him to another facility. So it's unfit for humans, it's unfit for new cases, but it's fit for Joshua Schulte, the alleged WikiLeaks source. And it would seem that keeping him in this facility is just another part of putting him through this kind of cruel treatment. This is like what you can expect if you are associated or connected to WikiLeaks, a organization that in which the government is convinced is like a hostile, what were Mike Pompeo's words? Everybody knows them. The hostile non-state intelligence agency. And so Joshua Schulte in this facility, he goes through these conditions that are detailed, that they're locked in concrete boxes the size of parking spaces with purposefully obstructed views of the outside, that the cages are filthy, they're infested with rodents, there's rodent droppings, there's cockroaches, there's mold, there's no heating or air conditioning in the cages, there's no functioning plumbing, the lights burn brightly 24 hours a day. Inmates are denied outside recreation, normal commissary, normal visitation, access to books, legal material, medical care, dental care. All attorney-client privilege is void to Sam's inmates as the prison confiscates, opens, reads all legal mail. Inmates are forbidden from transferring legal material to and from their attorneys. He alleged that he was not receiving proper heating and air conditioning. And in this unit called 10 South, he would wear 4 sets of clothing, 5 sets of socks, a sweatshirt, sweatpants, 2 blankets, 3 sets of socks on his hands. He put socks on his hands, still freezing when the temperature in his cell would plummet below freezing. And then he would see water that would literally freeze in his cell. So he's putting all of these different clothing pieces on him, and it's still not enough. And he's got ice forming in his cell. That's what was described. And his counsel, Sabrina Shroff, endorsed it, helped him to make this complaint challenging cruel and inhuman conditions to which nothing has been done to address. He says he has congenital heart issues. He's had ongoing cardiologist appointments, but he had not seen a doctor since his trial in February 2020. This was according to a filing in January 2021. So nearly a year he was deprived medical care. We talk about the assurances of the U.S. government put forward related to Julian Assange. This is a huge issue. Almost a year not getting attention. Is that the kind of future for Julian Assange? Additionally, he had not seen a dentist. Julian Assange has issues with his teeth. He's probably getting dental care at Belmarsh prison, but if extradited to the U.S., I know for a fact that it's going to be hard to get any dental treatment in a U.S. prison. That's worse than needing medical care for something unrelated to your teeth. We've decided, just people should know globally here in the United States that something that has happened and is a part of our system is we've decided that medical care excludes your teeth. So health insurance does not cover your dental care. That's elective. And it's also elective in prisons. So everybody in the U.S. technically, the government and private insurance companies have an agreement that you can just lose your teeth. And so this isn't just exclusive to something that Julian Assange has to face. Everyone has to face the fact that they have to go above and beyond to save their teeth if they want to keep them. All right. So when 10 South inmates are moved, they are shackled from head to toe like Hannibal. They're handcuffed, belly chained, foot cuffed, even though you may not be accused of violence. You don't have to commit disciplinary infractions to be treated like this. Then there's mail interception. Okay, now let's get to the thing that is more shocking than anything you've probably ever heard. And this was highlighted by John Kiriakou, but I wrote about this when it first broke, when this filing was first put in there. Prisoners in 10 South, and this includes Joshua, are often forced to urinate and defecate in plastic bags. I'll say that again. often forced to urinate and defecate in plastic bags. We're talking about pissing and shitting in bags. During visitation, inmates are moved to a 6 by 6 foot cage, and instead of taking the inmate back to his cage after visits, as would be logical, the housing unit lieutenants will take the visitors back first. And then it might be 5 or 7 hours, give or take, before these lieutenants come back. And then the prisoners who have to go to the bathroom will do so in the plastic bags that they are given. So you've got this kind of abuse and mistreatment happening. This is apparently just common. This is what goes on in this facility. So I'm gonna take this down. I'm gonna wind down this broadcast. It figures that we'll probably have a pretty news-filled day tomorrow as far as WikiLeaks goes and the war on WikiLeaks and the case against Julian Assange. As we said at the top of the stream, we expect to get the announcement from Home Secretary Priti Patel. I've got an interview coming with Italian journalist Stefania Marizzi, probably going to be joined by my colleague, Rania Kalik. We're going to do this for unauthorized disclosure. If you're a subscriber to that show, you'll either get early access or it's possible that this may be an interview we air live depending on how things unfold tomorrow. I do not know when they're going to make the announcement, but everyone's aware that time zones. And so there's a difference of 6 or 7 hours. And it's possible when I wake up, the news will be right there. And we can just talk about it. We don't have to wait for any kind of decision. So that's coming. And then there will be a clear road laid by the Assange legal team for what to do. There's going to be an appeal, although there will be limitations to what they can do. We do not expect that Julian Assange will instantly be brought to the United States as a result of this decision by the UK government, but it'll crystallize what was crystallized by the British judiciary sending the extradition request to Patel's desk. And it will crystallize it even further. It'll make it even more clear to everyone that the UK is not going to do anything to stand up and tell the U.S. government that they cannot extradite a journalist and bring that person to trial in the United States. So we have these two things happening at the same time. We have an alleged WikiLeaks source who the government was not able to prove as a source, who they lost their trial. It deadlocked, but they insisted on bringing him back to trial a second time. Who knows? Maybe they'll do it a third time if they don't get it right the second time. And then you've got this. You've got this, which has had much more coverage, captivated many more people, been responded to with a lot of outrage from press freedom and human rights organizations, understandably. And so, yeah, Sanders says, what can we expect from a monarchy? Yeah. The journalists are to be controlled. And in fact, they are in the UK. They are. There's something called a DSMA committee. You can read about it over at thedissenter.org. Kit Clarenberg wrote about it. You get these D notices. The Guardian, who I know people are impatient and sick and tired of some of the stupid things that they do, but they published the Snowden documents, and someone came and made a show of destroying a hard drive that had no files on them at all, but said they had to do this kind of pageantry, to use the word that the New Yorker used in connection with opening or downloading the Vault 7 materials to a computer in Starbucks. There's pageantry. Just took a hammer, destroyed a hard drive for no reason whatsoever, just to make a point to the Guardian that it was wrong for them to publish the Snowden files. And just as a power move to say that we can control journalists if we want. They have the Official Secrets Acts. They're working on expanding them. Priti Patel is for doing that. We'll talk about this when I interview and when Rania joins me to interview Stefania Marizzi. I'll talk about it when the news breaks tomorrow a little bit further. Some of this British context, the monarchy side of things. But let's wind this down. Thank you, everyone who tuned in, stopped by. A few of you were able to catch this live stream and be here with me. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to this broadcast, the channel, subscribe to Shatterproof's channel. And let me put up some of the stuff here. Again, this is the dissenter.org, the newsletter where you can get these regular updates. You can get reports about whistleblowers. You can get latest developments, coverage of Julian Assange's case. And like I said at the top, I have a forthcoming book. It's called Guilty of Journalism, The Political Case Against Julian Assange. And I'm eager to share that with people. And those who are subscribing to the Dissenter newsletter, paid subscribers, are seeing snippets, reading about it, following developments. I invited them to have their names included in the acknowledgments section. So something you want to do, you become a subscriber, and then once you're a subscriber, email me at newsletter@thedissenter.org and let me know you're a subscriber. You want to be in the acknowledgments section. You want to be seen as a supporter of Julian Assange, a supporter of this kind of independent journalism on his case that is crucial. So everyone is awakened to what's at stake. So I'll leave you with that. And I expect to be back on this channel tomorrow with another stream. But for now, you all take care of yourselves, and I'll see you around.